Meeting is now being called to order. Today is Monday, September 23rd, 5 p.m. At this time, I'm Michelle Coley. I am the board chair, and we will introduce the rest of the board, beginning with Mr. Eatman.
Joseph Eatman Sr.
Tim Gillum.
Linda Ford.
Paul Rollins Jr.
Mary Catherine Holt.
I guess I could have said my name, Michelle Coley. At this time, we'd like to introduce city staff that's helping us. From the Department of Urban Development, Ms. Emily Hayes, Associate Director of Planning, Jonathan Bowen, Neighborhood Resources Coordinator, and from the Office of the City Attorney, Ms. Kim King, Associate City Attorney. In the back helping us, Mr. Kevin Jones with the video production, and Ms. Angie's back there. Wave, I see her. I hadn't seen you in a while, glad to have you back. All right, the purpose of the Board of Adjustments does not have the authority to enact zoning laws or special exceptions, nor does the board have the authority to rule on claims of equal or protection of the law or fairness or unfairness of any zoning ordinances. By virtue of the state law, the city ordinance, by virtue of the state law and the city ordinances, the purpose of the ZBA is as follows. Hear appeals for decisions of the zoning officer of the city, grant special exceptions to the zoning code in accordance with the terms as established by the city council therein, grant variances from the terms of the zoning code when, owing to the special conditions, a literal enforcement of the code would result in unnecessary hardship. Now, no one factor determines what is an unnecessary hardship, but all relevant factors, when taken together, must indicate that the plight of the property in question is unique in that it cannot be put reasonably to a conforming use because of the limitations imposed upon it by reason of its classification in specified zone. Now, my working definition of an unnecessary hardship is as follows. The property cannot be put to any reasonable use under its current zoning classification. It must be a unique and peculiar difficulty relating to the property of a serious and significant nature. It must relate to the property and not any personal issues. This includes economic, financial gain or loss. A variance may not be granted where the property owner merely suffers a financial loss of a kind that is common to all the property owners in the area. Now, circumstances that are not hardships, self-inflicted or self-created, inconvenient, personal. Now, subdivision covenants and HOA regulations. Now, the Zoning Board of Adjustments, by virtue of state law and City of Tuscaloosa ordinance, does not have the jurisdiction or authority to consider, interpret, and or enforce any term or condition of the subdivision covenants and or homeowner association rules or regulations. Now, these matters are therefore not relevant areas of inquiry by the board on any petition. Such covenants or regulations are between the private parties involved and not the ZBA. Now, that having been said, any decision made by the ZBA on any particular case does not necessarily preclude the enforcement of such subdivision covenants and or HOA rules or regulations by other lawful means. Now, public record and decorum. This is a public hearing. It is being recorded, videotaped, and it is streaming live on the city's website, Facebook, as well as local cable TV. Proper decorum, civility, and respect for others is required at all times. There are sign-up sheets outside for the public comment. Up to 4 speakers will be given the opportunity to speak in favor of a petition, and up to 4 speakers will be given the opportunity to speak in opposition to a petition. All speakers will have up to 5 minutes unless the board votes to allow longer time. When you are at the podium, please speak directly into the microphone and state your name and address for the record. All comments should be directed to the board. No questions or comments are to be directed to city staff. Now, this is public notice. I would ask city staff to confirm for the record that all appropriate and required public and individual property owner notices for each case upon the docket of petition now before the board have been made in accordance to the law.
Yes, it has.
Okay. The following procedures will be followed for each petition. The hearing is an opportunity for the petitioner to present their case, for the public to inquire and make their views known about the petition, and the board members to gather relevant facts before making its decision. City staff will introduce the petition and present facts and information to the board concerning the same. The petitioner or petitioner's designated representative will be asked to make comments and answer questions from the board. Now, the petitioner will have up to 10 minutes unless the board votes to allow longer. The 4 members of the public that are in support of the petition and 4 members of the public that are in opposition to the petition who signed up to speak will then be afforded an opportunity to make inquiries and comments. Petition response. Now, at the close of the public comments, the petitioner will be asked to respond to the comments if necessary. Any rebuttal will be allowed up to 2 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. The chair may then permit the public to respond, but only to any new issues raised by the petitioner in rebuttal. Any response will be allowed up to 2 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. At the close of public comment, or once the board is satisfied that it has received all relevant information on a petition, the chair will close further comment or discussion, and the board will discuss the matter. The chair will read into the record the motion to approve the request, and along with any conditions set by the board, and the board members will commence voting. Now, 4 votes are required to approve any petition. I repeat, 4 votes are required to approve any petition, not a simple majority of the board. Please leave the signs in your yard. Staff will pick up the signs as soon as possible. Now, in the event any party is aggrieved by any final judgment or decision of such board or zoning adjustment may, within 15 days after appeal therefrom to the circuit court, by filing with such board a written notice of appeal specifying the judgment or decision from which the appeal is taken. Now, the board members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the members have a conflict of interest with any of the cases on tonight's agenda?
No.
Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay. We don't have any meeting synopsis or anything. Kim King, Ms. City Attorney, any pending cases, anything?
We still have one pending case, but there are no updates on it at this time.
Thank you. All right, we're ready to get started. First petition.
All right, good afternoon, board. So first we'll start cases to be withdrawn. This is ZBA 7124. They actually requested to continue last month's meeting. They have since withdrawn their case. I will move into cases to be heard for tonight. So we'll begin with the one case that was continued from the August 2024 meeting. This is ZBA 7224. Ken Horton petitions for a variance from the accessory structure regulations. This is at 1029 Myrtlewood Drive, zoned R3H, Council District 4. So again, here we have the zoning of the property as well as the aerial view and then a view of the primary structure. This is a view from the Myrtlewood Drive. And then we'll move around to the accessory structure. So again, the request, it remains the same. Here we have the applicable regulations for the maximum height for accessory structures. It's 18 feet, as well as that it cannot exceed the height of the principal or the primary structure. Moving into the request, so the petitioner is requesting a variance from those accessory structure regulations for a 2-level detached garage. It currently exceeds the maximum height that's allowed for the accessory structures. This board previously approved the location of the accessory structure. After we received the drawings, it was determined that the height is over 21 feet tall. As you all just saw, the zoning ordinance restricts those accessory structures to be less than 18 feet. So from the last month's meeting to this month's meeting, the petitioner went back, spoke with their architect, spoke with the building division, and here's what they have found. So per the petitioner's architect, if the roof was lowered to meet the required 18 feet, it would make any space above the garage unusable, and it could only function as a storage attic. Per the city's building division, if this is the only door accessing any portion of the structure that could be used for sleeping or habitation, the door could not exceed or be shorter than 6 feet, 6 inches. So again, here we have the primary structure. These are those documents that they received from both the architect as well as from the building code or building inspections department. On the left-hand side, you have their architect. Right-hand side was a conversation between the applicant and the building division. And here are just some images that the petitioner submitted of other accessory structures located throughout the historic districts. This is one that's closer towards the front of Myrtlewood. And again, just as a reminder, the accessory structure we're discussing is a garage located in the rear. So we do have some updated drawings the architect listed to show what it would look like if it were built to 18 feet. You can see, I'll move that. The dashed line is where the structure, where the roof line would fall if it was lowered to meet that 18-foot requirement. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have a representative here in person.
Can you go back to the structures, the accessory structures? Are they over 18 feet?
We have not verified the height, and what's a little bit different about the accessory structures here, from a zoning perspective, the roof type, the type of the roof ultimately determines the height. For example, this is a gabled roof, so we would measure the midpoint. That's not quite the midpoint, but from a zoning perspective, they would measure
That one
the
was
midpoint.
before us. We saw that one. It looks similar to one we've seen, anyway.
There was a request for a carport that you saw for this one here. I don't think that had anything to do with the height of the structure itself, but you did see that
All right.
before. Going back to this, so this is a sloped roof, so the height of the roof is measured differently for this type.
So if he was to put a different type of roof, would that change, a gable roof on that, would that make any difference?
It would make a difference in terms of how it's measured. I'm not sure how that would fall and where the height would be if they put a gabled roof on top instead. I think that could be something the applicant could speak to.
Any questions for the city? Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Horton?
Hi, I'm Roseanne Fariolo, 1029 Myrtlewood Drive. So this is a continuance because last month you asked for proof that an egress door would not fit, and we did confirm that from the building department and the architect, as you could see in the drawings. The biggest hardship is that we cannot grant egress to the second floor. This whole project was very carefully thought out, where the existing garage doors were 8 feet in height, so we tried to match the second floor with 8-foot doors, which didn't work. We were not aware that this was being done. We hired a contractor that told us that there were permits issued, and until it was brought to our attention, we didn't even realize how tall the structure was. So 1029 Myrtlewood, the primary structure is 27 feet tall. The accessory building is still lower than what the primary residence is. 1012 Convent, where they showed the picture of, and if we could go to that, the accessory structure in the Myrtlewood district is 23 feet tall. The primary structure is only 15 feet tall. That whole interior of the garage is accessible to run a tape measure all the way up to the top, and it measures 23 feet. And they don't have setbacks, they don't have driveways, and I don't believe it was as thought out as our project is. If we go on to the other structures that I've driven around the neighborhoods, there's about 12 accessory structures that exceed 23 foot with gable roof lines, and they're all through the historic district. So these things have been done. I don't think that they were planned as uniquely as ours was to match everything in the surrounding areas. 1029 Myrtlewood does not have a buffer in the historic district. There's a 35-foot structure behind it, and it's a townhouse, and I believe they got a variance because it was university housing. So there's no buffer in between the Myrtlewood single-family residences and the townhouses back there. There are other districts, such as the Pinehurst District and the University District, that have buffers. and that's all within the historic district. 1029 Myrtle Woods accessory building conforms in roof line, doors, windows to the townhome that's behind there. And I don't think that they followed through with a picture of that. But the roof lines, the slope is the same as back there. The doors, the windows, they all conform and they look alike. So it's kind of uniform with what's back there and what we're trying to build. The setbacks are correct, and everything that we've tried to adhere to. And then with this height regulation, it says 18 feet with an asterisk above it. 1012 Convent does not follow suit with that height regulation at 23 feet, and it exceeds the principal structure. So I don't believe that we're asking for any more than what's in the Myrtlewood district. The biggest hardship is that we've been in limbo for 3 months, and we're trying to make this right. We've hired the architect. I've gone to the building department. They've stated that everything with an egress door up there it will have to have more than an 18-foot height requirement. We were not trying to go under the radar on this project. We hired a bum contractor that took us down a path that was very illegal, and I think that they need to come forward and be scrutinized for this.
I asked you last time, this is a storage area, correct?
We want to use it as a game room storage and memorabilia room for storage, memorabilia. We're not trying to live up there, we're not trying to rent it out. And there's a lot in the Myrtlewood district that they are.
But we're not talking about the rest of the district.
Okay, I just thought that would be an example that, okay.
So I do remember when you first came, or when Mr. Horton came, he said it was going to be used for storage. And then each time you've been before us, it's kind of morphed into, it was going to be a workout room, and then it was going to be, now you're saying it's going to be a game room. And so what we're looking at is that we thought it was originally going to be storage, and your architect is saying that it does fit storage, that the space, if it was meeting the regulation, it would be room enough just for storage. So that's the issue that we're having, is that trying to find the hardship. And it can't be that you had a bum contractor. That's not necessarily the ZBA to correct. That would be an issue you'd have to take up with the contractor. So that's what we're looking for, is the hardship in this situation. And it can't be financial, and it can't be a personal thing. It has to be that you can't do anything else with the property.
Okay. I always said that it was going to be used for memorabilia up there, and that was part of the storage issue. So Ken Horton lived in Birmingham, and he's trying to make this his residence, and the house, the primary house, had all kinds of memorabilia through it. He's taken that out, and he wanted a space that he could house all of his memorabilia, and that's where the storage comes in.
So the height would make a difference for this memorabilia?
Well, you would like to display it and be able to visually see it.
Any more questions?
Did your architect talk about access up to the height, to the second level if you dropped it to 18 foot? I didn't really see anything for stairs if they did drop it. Did they discuss that?
Yes, they said that the height requirement for headroom would not, it's a 7-foot minimum for a headroom, as per 305.1 code. And the building department stated that you could not go through the garage to access it.
So as you see it, state your hardship for us.
The hardship is that we can't get up there and open a door to access the second floor that would meet code.
And will you pull up for us, City, go back to what we, go back a page for me. Go back. Is it one more, the page that tells us what we, the one before this page? Go back.
Which one were you specifically looking for?
I'm looking for the one that tells us that how is it, the code and what the code is stated. That's the only one we had, I thought we had another screen.
I believe that's what you're looking for from the building department.
There was an additional slide of just a staff summary of what this was saying, but this is where that staff summary came
Okay.
from.
Any more questions? Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. So no one signed up to speak for or against? Anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this petition? We got somebody like to speak for. Okay.
Haynes Waldo, 1323 Main Avenue, Northport. One other thing that I think is worth noting is that in the historic district, there is the buffer zone. As we can tell, if you've been on Myrtlewood Drive, the townhomes that were built there were totally ignored. So they purchased this house, looking at Bryant-Denny Stadium, thinking, oh, there's going to be a buffer zone to townhomes being built. Since then, the buffer zone, I'm not sure what happened, and that was years ago. But as you look at property there with the other accessory structures and the property value and the cohesiveness of the street, I think it makes much more sense from a third party and the owner to have a building there instead of looking at student housing where mattresses are getting tossed off the second floor, bags of trash. I mean, it's really a wreck back there. So I think that may be something to notate as a hardship as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak for or against? At this time, we'll close public comment and go to board comment, starting with Mr. Rollins.
Again, as last week, or I'm sorry, last month, I failed to see the hardship. We stated before, it can't be financial. If there was someone who was hired to do the job, and unfortunately, they did not go about doing it the proper way, that's something that the petitioner would need to take up with that individual. And it's a bad situation all the way around, but I fail to see the hardship being on the financial.
I am so sorry that this has happened. Unfortunately, we've seen this happen a lot where a contractor will come in and not try to get a building permit or follow exactly what the ordinances are for height. And I fail to see a hardship. I do see that this is a very beautiful building. It's happened all over this university and the area of the university housing, where people have bought homes and then a student housing comes up right behind them or right on the side of them. It's unfortunate, but it happens. But I fail to see a hardship.
I'm looking at the working definition of a hardship to be able to do a variance, because one thing when we give you a variance, others look at it, and we have to be able to stand on what we say, that this is the reason you have your hardship, so that when the next person comes in and says, well, I can see student housing from my house, and so now I need to build a structure. So that in itself does not fit the definition of an unnecessary hardship that you can't do, because you can build the structure, you just can't go over the 18 feet. And so I'm just not seeing the hardship here.
Unfortunately, I'm have to agree with my fellow board members. This is, and I hate the fact that your contractor led you down this road, but being that it is the hardship in the definition and looking at for actual storage, there is other options. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with my fellow board members. Although I agree that it is, you got a bad deal, I'm gonna give you that. And it is a beautiful structure, but I think we've got to be careful on, what precedent we set when we're making these decisions. So I'm gonna have to agree with my fellow board members.
At this time, we'll close board comment. I'll read the motion. Absolutely. Come back up.
So, Michelle, you did ask if a gable roof could be added and meet the guideline. If we did a gable roof with a door in the middle that was 6'6", and it met the 18-foot height requirement, would it be approved?
Jonathan?
That would be something we as staff could look at those plans, look at an actual drawing to determine. I don't know if that's something we could do tonight.
So, because that's the roof situation, so would they have to come back before us to vote if that works?
So essentially, tonight, what y'all would be voting on would be exactly how it is. If you were to deny it, then going back to the drawing board, we could figure out either one, if you were able to meet the regulations, or if not, then you would come back and try to ask for the variance again. Essentially, what we're gonna run into is we do have a rules of procedure that we have to abide by, so you can't come back with the exact same request. What that would look like is we get a new plan, we realize that, hey, it's maybe a little bit closer to that 18 feet with that new gabled roof. You could come back before the board, request for them to hear your case sooner. That following month, you could present your new case to the board. So essentially would be another couple months to your
Right.
timeline.
But if she get,
Is the structure is ruined. What's there is just rock. Exposed to weather, hurricane, wind, right?
You need to come before us, Mr. Horton, if you want to speak, okay?
You know, I mean,
em-
if we have to drop it back to 18 feet, fine, we'll drop it to 18 feet. Problem is, we can't access it because of this code. The building code says we gotta have
There's a stop work order.
6 feet, 6 inches, so that's what stopped the work order. So I don't know how you can have the second story and have a door that you can put there according to your code.
Well, if
There's
we
gotta
did
be a
gable-
certain height.
If we did a gable, it would be the median of the gable, and it would meet the 18-foot height
as long as they
requirement.
meet the 18-foot, whether it's a change in, they don't have to come back. You don't
I'm
have,
sorry?
if you meet the 18 foot, you don't have to come back, as long as you meet that 18 foot. So if you change to a
That's
gable
what I
roof
wanna hear.
at
Okay.
that height, you don't have to come back.
Okay,
Yeah,
Right.
we'll build.
I mean, the
18
code
foot.
says 18 foot, correct?
Right.
So you don't
But, I
have to
mean-
if you make that.
perfect. Then that's what we'll do. We'll
We'll do
tear
it.
off the roof, we'll do a gable, and we'll meet the 18-foot height requirement.
Then you're totally fine.
They'll come out, they'll put
Okay,
struts in
okay.
and lower
Yeah,
it
right.
to 18
I
feet.
mean, that's correct. I mean, that's how I
Right.
read
If
it.
you're able to meet code, absolutely, just get us that plan from your architect. Let us look over it before you start doing anything.
Okay.
So,
So we
Okay.
need to come see y'all with the new
We need
plans.
we need a plan. Okay.
And I do understand the frustration, and we are not in any way trying to
I
be
understand.
difficult, and we're glad that you're moving to Tuscaloosa. It's really a great place, Mr.
Well, the
Horton.
one thing, be honest, I don't like, there's a house, I mean, on the street in Covenant, and it is 6 houses down from my house, and it's 24 feet. And it's bigger than their existing house.
That's the
And they're
accessory.
building it right now, and it's gonna have 2 bedrooms, baths, everything else up there.
That's 1012 Convent.
It is on my street.
And so, I don't know if that's been reported, we don't know, it hasn't come before us.
It's in the picture.
It's in the picture. Show the picture. That is
We
on
can
our
work with
street.
the applicants outside of the meeting.
It's what?
We can work with the applicants outside of the meeting tonight.
So they're gonna look into that, so that's the type of stuff that has to be, we don't know until it's reported. The city doesn't know until somebody
We
reports
went
it.
over and measured, it's 24 feet. There's
I-
at least 2 bedrooms, a den, a kitchen, all kinds of stuff up there.
Above the garage.
Thank
Above the
you.
garage.
Okay, so we can come forward with a new plan, 18 feet, and then,
and
If
build.
it's 18 feet, you don't have to
don't
come
have to come
before us,
back.
you just go to the city and they can tell you if it's
we'll
okay.
reach out to you tomorrow to set up a meeting to sit down in person to talk.
okay, great, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thank
thank you. Okay, we're gonna close public comment and we're gonna close board comment, and I'm gonna read the motion, and we're voting on as it is this evening. ZBA-72-24, Kitten Horton petitions for a variance from the accessory structure regulations on the property located at 1029 Myrtle Wood Drive, zoned R-3H, Council District 4, voting with Mr. Rollins.
No.
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 Petition failed.
All right, we'll move on to the next case, ZBA 9124, Jerry South petitions for a special exception from the off-street parking regulations on the property at 635 Skowland Boulevard. This is Zone BN, Council District 2. Here we have the zoning of the property as well as the aerial view. This is located in the shopping center, Planet Fitness, Ollie's, Royal, Ashley Furniture. What we're focusing on is this area here, essentially. So we have the applicable regulations for our off-street parking. This is specific towards shopping centers. The petitioner is requesting a special exception from those regulations to construct a Lazy Boy furniture store. The petitioner is requesting that their parking ratio be altered from the 4.5 to 3 1/3 per 1,000 square feet of building floor area. Per the code, if they build it out to the 4.5, it would require 382. If their special exception is approved, this would reduce the total parking to 329 off-street parking spaces. Per the petitioner's research with the Lazy Boys developer, they have concluded that 3 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet is sufficient for their operations. Here we have a site plan showing you where the proposed Lazy Boy is going to be located. You can see that that's going to essentially take away some parking spaces. So previously, here, it's a parking lot. By filling it with a constructed addition, it's going to take away some parking spaces. They're also going to take away some to add some landscape islands as well. We did not receive any public comment for this request, and we have a representative here in person.
Is there any change with framework in regarding?
We have some parking alterations. I'll let Ms. Hayes speak to that.
There is a slight reduction in what the updated code requirements are going to be for parking for large shopping centers. Right now, it's at 4.5 per 1,000. I think we're pushing it down to a little bit less than that. It's not going to look significantly different, but it is going to be less than what they have. In addition, they'll talk about this a little bit more. The original requirement of what they were held to is actually higher than what we have right now. So it has changed since this was developed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jerry South?
Yes, Jerry South, I'm with Gonzalez Strength and Associates. I'm the authorized agent for the owner. Our address is 1550 Woods of River Chase Drive, Hoover, Alabama 35244. We are working with the Lazy Boy, the owner, to add the Lazy Boy to this additional part of the shopping center, excuse me, that is on the east side next to Old Montgomery Highway. And you can see from the photograph, the outline in red is the actual building itself. And that is a former garden center, automotive oil change, tire sales that was there with the Kmart is where that's going to be positioned. We are making some changes in the front parking in there for ADA compatible regulations. I have looked back through from 1980 aerial photographs, Google Earth. From about 1985 up until Kmart closed, there was an average in those photographs of about 100 to 110 cars. And you can see in the photograph where the parking lot stained from cars parking there. They would park in 10 to 15 spaces in front of the building. And I followed that all the way through up into the current time, and it's still about the same. COVID had dropped some, and then the Kmart closed, and one photograph had no parking. But now with the other facilities that are now there occupying it. It does use, again, about 100, 110 spaces of the 360 that are current, 393 that are there now. And we do exceed the ADA requirements with this layout.
Okay. Anything else for us?
Just questions if you have them.
Any questions for the petitioner? No. Okay, thank you. Has nobody signed up to speak for or against? Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for or against this petition? At this time, we'll close public comment and start with board comment. Mr. Eatman?
I don't have any issue with the petition. I'm in favor.
I have no issue either. There seems to be ample parking there. I think it's an asset to the city. I see no issue.
I agree with my fellow board members.
I always try to think about repurposing the building. Not that this isn't going to make it, but I'm sure that it will. But if it was going to be anything in the future, I still think there will be plenty of parking with the reduction. So I have no problem with it.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay. At this time, we'll close board comment, and then we'll begin. I'll read the motion. ZBA-91-24, Jerry South petitions for a special exception from the off-street parking regulations on the property located at 635 Skyland Boulevard, Zone BN, Council District 2. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
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 Petition approved.
Moving on to ZBA 9224, Lee Herrick petitions for a special exception to operate a hair salon on the property at 2012 8th Street. This property is zoned BGO DROD, Council District 4. Here we have the zoning of the property as well as the aerial view. This is a view of the front of the building from 8th Street and then just a perpendicular view as well. So the applicable regulations for special exceptions are listed below. The petitioner is requesting a special exception to operate a hair salon in this zoning district. Per the petitioner, they state this will elevate the quality of the existing building and the pedestrian experience along 8th Avenue and the surrounding areas. They plan to make alterations to the building, including support spaces, ADA-compliant restrooms, and they also plan to update the front facade to distinguish the salon from the adjacent brick building. Here on the next slide, you can see a rendering of the proposed storefront, new windows, doors, entrance area, new signage. This is just a rendering of what the building could look like. We did not receive any public comment for this request, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
All right, any questions for the city? All right, thank you. Mr. Lee Barrett?
Hey, good evening, members of the board. My name is Chandler Overcash with Caldwell Architects on behalf of the owner and the tenant. My address is 1490 North Bank Parkway, Suite 212, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the salon. My understanding is this is a special exception that will soon be allowed by right under the new framework, so I just want to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of the petitioner? All right. No questions. Thank you, Chandler. No one signed up to speak for or against. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak for or against this petition? At this time, we'll close public comment. We'll start with board comment. Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, I have no issues with the request. I'm in favor.
I'm in favor. I think it'll be a great improvement to that property.
It's a beautiful rendering, so I don't have any issue with it. I think it'd be a vast improvement.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. I have no issue.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay, we'll close board comment. I'll read the motion. ZBA-92-24, Lee Herrick petitions for a special exception to operate a hair salon on the property located at 2012 8th Street, Zone BGO, DROD, Council District 4. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
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 Petition approved.
All right, we'll move into our short-term rental requests. These next two, we're going to present them together because they are located on the same property. So this will be for ZBA 9324 and ZBA 9424. Gary and Annie Walton petition for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property This is located at 514 26th Avenue East and 516 26th Avenue East, Zone RD2, Council District 5. So here we have the zoning of the property as well as an aerial view. This is an image of the surrounding short-term rentals. They just make it top, left, and right. This is a view of the front structure, 516, and then you have 514 located just behind it. Again, they are located on the same property. The petitioner is requesting a special exception to allow the short-term rental of each dwelling. Gary and Annie Walton will be the primary contacts and will also be available 24 hours a day. They do not have any experience managing short-term rentals. If approved, they will equip the house with keypad locks and alarm system. Neither dwelling is owner-occupied, and they will remain vacant when it is not being rented short-term. So for the back building, 514 26th Avenue East, has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. They are requesting 2 adults and 4 vehicles. Based on the parking, if approved, staff recommends 2 adults and 1 vehicle. For the front building, it's 516 26th Avenue East, has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The petitioner is requesting 8 adults and 4 vehicles. Again, based on the parking, staff recommends 6 adults and 3 vehicles. We did not receive any public comment for this request. We do have the petitioner here in person.
Go back to the parking picture just real
Yes.
quick. So the 3 would go across the front. They won't be in the right-of-way or anything.
That's right. So essentially, when staff was examining it, you would have 3, and then 1 being able to access 514 located in the rear.
Okay.
Same property but different addresses?
That's correct, yeah. And they would have to be rented out to a singular unit or a singular group. They couldn't be rented out to 2 separate groups of people.
Oh, it has to be rented to the same
That's
group of-
correct. So-
Okay, so we need to put that in the petition. That's what we
Right.
want to put in the petition. Gotcha, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
The petitioner, Jerry and Annie Walton.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm Gary Walton, this is my wife Annie Walton. Yeah, we bought the property as an,
State your address for us, please.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This is our home address. This,
Yeah, home address.
we're at 5001 Overbrook Road, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 35405. Okay, we bought the property. That whole street is brand new, like 4 or 5 new houses built for students. Of course, you got a couple older ones also, so that's why we bought the property, for that reason. So now we're looking into the short-term rental for the property, because we just hadn't decided which direction we're gonna go. It was a complete trash for the neighborhood. You know, everybody was complaining about the previous renters, the way the house looked. So we actually built it up for the community, and so we like to serve it with the community as well, and of course, visiting guests also.
Okay.
Anything you want to add?
And also, we're okay with doing the full car as far as the vehicles. We're
Okay.
with that.
Do you all have rules and regulations that you all have made up so that you can post them in the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we have.
Okay, all right, and then, where were you all, so this is vacant, so y'all don't live here, and,
No.
No.
but y'all will be the ones that they call if something happens?
Right,
Right.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for the Waltons? All right, good night, Waltons. I just had to get that in there.
That's right.
That's all, we don't have any more questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. No one signed up to speak for or against? Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this petition? Yes, sir, come up. State your name and your address for us, please.
Aaron Christian, I'm a property owner at 395 Riverdale. I rise to support these people here. They've got a good idea. They've got a fully matured neighborhood, and where short-term rental seems to work real well in fully matured neighborhoods. I rise to support.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak for or against? All right, we'll close public comment. We'll begin with board comment. Mr. Eatman.
I don't see any issue. Great investment and good luck. I mean, I'm in favor.
Okay. I agree as well.
Also agree with staff recommendation.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor of staff recommendations.
Okay, we'll close board comment, and I'll read the petition. ZBA-93-24, Gary and Annie Walton petition for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 514 26th Avenue East, Zone RD2, Council District 5. So do I read it together or read them separately?
You'll read them separate. So for the first one, 514.
That's the 2 and 1.
Yes, that's correct.
2 adults, 1 vehicle for 30 nights, 1 year probation. So how do we put in there that they need to be rented together?
Just put it as a stipulation on each.
Okay, as a stipulation, it needs to be, so 2 adults, 1 vehicle, 30 nights, 1 year probation, and it has to be rented with property 516 26th Avenue East. Voting with Mr. Eatman.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Petition approved. ZBA-94-24, Gary and Annie Walton, petition for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 516 26th Avenue East, Zone RD-2, Council District 5, 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation, and must be rented with property 514 26th Avenue East. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Petition approved. Thank you.
Next case is ZBA 9524, Parker Hall, petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property in a historic district. This is located at 818 Queen City Avenue, Zone R3H, Council District 4. So here we have the zoning of the property as well as that aerial view. Here we have a view of all the short-term rentals in the general vicinity. This is a view of the house from Queen City Avenue, and then an up-close view of their parking area. So the petitioner is requesting a special exception for a short-term rental. Parker Hall will be the primary contact and will be available 24 hours a day in case of an emergency. The petitioner does not have experience managing short-term rentals, but they are considering using a property manager who manages many long-term and short-term rental properties in the area. This house is equipped with a security system as well as some cameras. It is not owner-occupied and will be used as a second home for the property owner when it is not being rented on a short-term basis. The house has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The petitioner is requesting 4 adults and 2 vehicles. If approved, staff recommends 4 adults and 2 vehicles as well. We did not receive any public comment for this request, and we do have the representative here in person.
Okay, any questions for the city? Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Parker?
Good evening. My name is Parker Hall, my wife Molly. This home has been in her family for a number of years. Her uncle was the historian for the university. This was his house that has been preserved by her mother and father for a number of years since his passing. Her parents live several hours away and are getting to a state where they can no longer keep up with the property, and we'd like to be able to take that over for them and get the historical property back up to where it needs to be. Getting the exterior fixed back up, the interior maintained as it once was. It's an important property to her family and important historical property to the community.
Have you all already gotten the property manager, or are you just thinking about it?
I have one that I'm ready to execute management with. We have not executed. We're waiting to hear the results of this meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. No one signed up to speak for or against. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this property, this petition? Okay, we'll close public comment, and we'll go to board comment. Mr. Rollins?
Yes, ma'am, I have no issues with this petitioner. Just as long as we have a local representative that can be contacted, I'm in favor.
I'm also in favor, and I drive by that house probably 10 times a day. It's very close to where I live. It's a beautiful home, and I think it will definitely, is in a good place for a short-term rental, and once it's restored, I think it'll be unbelievably perfect.
I have no problems with this short-term rental. I am in agreement.
I'm in agreement as well. There's numerous in the area, so I see no issue.
I agree with my fellow board members.
All right, we'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-95-24 Parker Hall petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property in a historic district located at 818 Queen City Avenue, Zone R-3H, Council District 4. 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation. Voting with Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
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 Petition approved.
Next case is ZBA 9624 Kelly Prickett petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 1712 12th Avenue, zoned RMF2, Council District 2. Here we have the zoning of the property as well as that aerial view. And then here we have the adjacent surrounding short-term rentals. This one might look familiar. There was one right next door before you last month. Again, this is the parking area, so they do have that garage space as well as parking that you can see on the right side of the photograph. So the request is for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a dwelling. Chuck and Kelly Prickett will be the primary contacts in case of emergency. They are located in Madison, Georgia, but they will have a local manager to handle any emergencies. The petitioners have experience with short-term rentals in Covington, Georgia, as well as Palm Coast, Florida. The house is equipped with exterior cameras and keypad locks. It is not owner-occupied, and it will be used by the family when it's not being rented short-term. House has 3 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms. The petitioner requests 6 adults and 3 vehicles. Based off the parking, if approved, staff recommends 6 adults and 3 vehicles as well. We did not receive any public comment for this request. We do have the representative here in person.
Okay. Any questions for the city? Thank you.
Good evening again. Haynes Waldo, 1323 Main Avenue, Northport. Any questions? I know we kind of went through this last month.
Great. Great property. I feel like y'all gonna bring the whole, every single one is coming. It's like,
We're hoping to go phase 2 any day now, so.
okay.
Have they all sold?
We got 1 left. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
1 left.
Wow. Okay. So they still will have the 2 parking spaces. There's 2 assigned parking spaces and then 1 in the garage?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And I'm their local contact. I live on Main Avenue in Northport, so I'm much closer than Madison, Georgia.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for this petitioner? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No one signed up to speak for or against. Anybody in the audience in the public that'd like to speak for or against this petition? All right, we'll close public comment and begin board comment. Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, I have no issues. I'm in favor of staff recommendations.
I'm also in favor of staff recommendations.
I think this property really lends itself to short-term rental. It's a beautiful property, so I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I see no issues with this as well.
I have no issues. I'm in favor.
Okay, we'll close board comments. I'll read the petition. ZBA-96-24 Kelly Prickett petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 1712 12th Avenue, zoned RMF-2, Council District 2. 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, and 1 year probation. Voting with Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
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 Petition approved.
Next case is ZBA 9724 1841 LLC petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 405 Hargrove Road, Zone R1, Council District 2. Here we have an aerial view of the property as well as the zoning. And then we have the adjacent surrounding short-term rentals in the area. You see the dot was on this property, so this one has been previously approved, but it's under a new ownership. This is a view from Hargrove Road and as well that parking area. Petitioner is requesting special exception to allow the short-term rental of a dwelling. Amanda Jones Guy Properties LLC will be the primary contact and will be available 24 hours a day. The petitioner has over 15 years of experience as a property manager as well as a developer. The house is equipped with door locks, camera systems, and a privacy concrete wall around the entire perimeter of the property. The house is not owner occupied, but it will be used by the property manager when it's not being rented short-term. The house has 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. The petitioner requests 10 adults and 5 vehicles. If approved, staff recommends 8 adults and 4 vehicles. We did not receive any public comment for this request, and we have the representative here in person.
I'd like to ask what was approved when it came with the other owner.
884 was previous approval.
All right, thank you.
Is this the third time this property's been in front of us?
It is, to my understanding, it is the 3rd time. I believe it's changed hands a couple of times, changed ownership a couple of times. Yeah.
All right,
Thanks.
any other questions? Thank you. All right, the petitioner.
My name is Amanda Guy, 2053 Westminster Lane, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 3506. I am here on behalf of the owner as designated agent, and I'm also under contract to purchase this home. We are trying to keep everything the same, but from my understanding, he applied for the petition for the short-term rental in his personal name, and it cannot transfer at closing unless it's approved. So we are trying to just be allowed to continue the current use.
It wouldn't matter even, each person has to get their own, whether it never would be, that doesn't really matter. It would have to you would have to get your own anyway. He couldn't transfer it to you even. Each person that owns it has to get
Have to
their.
transfer, okay. He was trying to sell the LLC, and it wasn't under the LLC's name, so that's where we kind of.
I got it. Now, would it transfer under a LLC?
It can, with
Okay.
LLC, as long as they were named as an entity within the LLC.
Got you, okay. Good to know.
So we're trying to put it under an LLC name so it doesn't have to come back before you.
I got you, all right.
Thanks.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay. Are you okay with the 8-4?
Yes, I counted 5 bedrooms, but I'm not sure why it wouldn't be considered a 5th
Well,
bedroom.
we don't like 10 adults and 5, that's a party house, and so it's like, and on Hargrove and that curve coming around, trying
I'm
to get.
fine with the other, yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. That's it. No one signed up to speak for or against? Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this property, this petition? Okay, we'll close public comment. We'll start with board comment, Mr. Eatman.
It's currently a short-term rentals is transferring, so I don't have an issue.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, I have no issue.
Okay, I agree as well. It can accommodate the 8 and 4, so I don't have any problem with that.
I'll still agree with that 8 and 4.
I agree with my other board members, I'm in favor.
Okay, we'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-97-24, 1841 LLC, petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 405 Hargrove Road, zoned R1, Council District 2. 8 adults, 4 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
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 Petition approved.
All right, next case is ZBA 9824. John Smelly petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 318 Riverdale Drive, zoned R1, Council District 3. Here we have the zoning of the property as well as the aerial view, as well as the surrounding short-term rentals in the general area. Here we have a view of the primary structure from the street, and then a close-up of the parking area. The petitioner is requesting a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a dwelling. John Smelly will be the primary contact and be available 24 hours a day in case of an emergency. The petitioner does not have experience managing short-term rentals. The house is equipped with a Ring camera and keypad locks. The house is not owner-occupied, and it will remain vacant when it's not being rented short-term. The house has 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The petitioner is requesting 8 adults and 4 vehicles. If approved, based on the parking, staff recommends 8 adults and 4 vehicles. We did receive 51 emails in opposition to this request. We also received a petition with 57 signatures in opposition to this request, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
Okay. Any questions for the city? Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Smelly?
Hi, John Smelly, 10303 House Bend Road, Northport, Alabama, 35475. My wife and I purchased this property for my daughter when she was going to grad school. She's finished, now she's at more grad school, and I think she'll be back in about 1.5 to 2 years. So my thought was during that time frame to rent it out as a short-term rental. I had no idea it was going to be so popular.
Yeah. So with that being said, what do you say to your neighbors? Because you don't officially live in the neighborhood, and they don't seem to want it in their neighborhood. So what do you say to that?
Well, I've actually had the house has been empty for 1.5 years. We've just been doing updates on it. And I've actually had neighbors call and want to know if they could rent it when they had Fritz coming in town. So I obviously not 57 of them, but I can't speak for them.
Okay. Any questions?
I would like to know, how many years was your daughter or your child in the house? You said she was in the house during school.
About 1.5 years.
About 1.5 years. But when did you purchase it, 1.5 years ago?
No, I purchased, it's been empty for 1.5 years. We purchased it about 4 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Were there any complaints on the home to the city or?
There were not. We reached out to TPD as well as checked our records through 311, and there were not any complaints.
Okay, and it's been empty 1.5 years, is that correct?
Since June of 23, so
Okay.
1 year and 4 months-ish.
So with no short-term rental, the house will remain vacant?
Unless my daughter or son comes home and wants to stay there, yes.
Obviously, they would.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Have you considered any long-term rental at all?
I really don't want to do long-term because my kids tend to show up when I least expect them and least want them to. And so, you know, I'd like it to be available. My thought process realistically was rent it out for game days, graduation, you know, if SEC softball tournament, something like that would be the extent of it.
I got to say it. I know that the city is recommending 8 and 4, but in the neighborhood it's in, I would be more agreeable with 6 of adults and 3 vehicles.
Well,
Just because of the way the neighborhood is. Now, I do realize if you long-term rented it, you could have 5 vehicles there. It wouldn't matter. But that's just my recommendation.
Okay, well, I mean, I understand. There are places for 4 cars without a problem, and that doesn't include the carport, but
I understand.
that's your discretion.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.
I do just want to quickly clarify for the record, you're good, that if it were to be rented long-term, absolutely could have a number of cars, but only 3 unrelated individuals maximum.
Oh, correct.
Just want to put that out there. It's a good thing to keep in mind.
Okay. All right. So now we open up for public comment. We have Jimbo Woodson and Mona Ochu sign up to speak.
Good evening. I'm a little hoarse. Jimbo Woodson. I'm at 370 Riverdale since 1991. And prior to that, I lived at 313 Riverdale when I came to Tuscaloosa in the 9th grade, and my parents lived out their life there. Riverdale is an R1 single-family neighborhood developed in the early 70s. It's 85 interior lots, and they're occupied by either 1 or 2 adults. There have been at times parents live with the children. Right now, I couldn't think of an example. 82 are owner-occupied. It's oval-shaped. If you walk it around it, it's about a mile, and there are 2 entrances and 2 exits. It's very quiet. Sometimes I think it's almost too quiet. That's almost. People know each other and they look out for each other. They're good neighbors. There are no restrictive covenants. These types of restrictive covenants were not being done at that time. They didn't come about until the 90s. There's a lot of walking, running, biking, the little electric scooters that zip along. and they all go past this house. It's 318. To the left of 318, the next door neighbor is Bubba Baker. He's got to be 90 now. He bought his house new in 1971 or 2. He doesn't really deserve to have a short-term rental next to him. 318 is at the heart of the neighborhood. It's the 5th house on the left, and if you go 5 more houses, you get a stop sign. The houses are spread out. There's a good bit of distance before you get to the stop sign. 318 was extensively remodeled, and they took out the living room. So the space where you used to go in the door and the living room is to the right, that's a wall, and another bedroom was created. So you don't have much living space when you take out that living room. There are 16 children under 11 between the entrance, front entrance, and that stop sign, across those 10 houses with 318 in the middle. There are 32 children in the neighborhood under 11 and 39 under 18. The neighborhood is repopulating with young couples with children. I've seen this happen for about the 3rd time. It's a good thing. It means the neighborhood is alive and well. Renters don't know where the children are. They come in for the weekend, and it's important to know where the kids are, because sometimes you have to know what to look for when you're driving through. When you drive past a parked car, if you know a child is there, you come to a crawl to see if that child is going to come across the street. I've many times come to a complete stop when a child walked out in front of the street. Tragedy struck before when a child was riding a bike, lived on 2nd Avenue East in the neighborhood that's just off of there. And riding a bike on 2nd Avenue Northeast, right in front of the Maccabees fence, and pulled out in front of a lady coming from Woodridge and was killed. So it does happen. It's the unthinkable, but we do have to protect from it. Renters don't know what to look for. They're coming for the weekend, in and out. There's more chance of that happening. This is multifamily in a single-family neighborhood. Short-term rentals depend upon as many people as possible there to split the cost. That's how they're able to get the astronomical amounts that are being amortized. And children don't count against their limit. These houses are really fairly small. I don't think anybody here would stand up and tell you they frequently have 6 adults over for the weekend. We could get stuck with singles. It could be 8 rowdy LSU fans or 8 rowdy Tennessee fans. You never know. It's really a bed and breakfast, but you don't get any breakfast. It's commercial property in a residential neighborhood. Weekend guests are infrequent in the neighborhood. You typically only see them when parents come into town for holidays and do not see a lot of guests any other time. Currently, there are no short-term rentals in the neighborhood. We'd like to keep it that way. By show of hands, how many here are opposed to this petition? I should have asked them to stand. They could have gotten a good stretch. We have a board here. To show you where the people are that are opposed. There was an electronic petition and people emailed back their opposition. And you can see the neighborhood's just about covered. Short-term rentals are not compatible with Riverdale. And you can say no based on compatibility.
Mr. Woodson, we have to stop you.
I'm primary, if you let me go on as a primary speaker.
We can vote on it, but we got one more person. It doesn't say anything about a primary.
It's board discretion. If he's speaking on behalf of everybody, we could count it against one of the other speaker times and take that out. It seems that there's
So Mona
maybe
has
some
granted
consensus
him
on
her
that.
time. Do we need to vote on it if she grants him her time?
I would prefer if you did.
Okay. At this time, the board will, somebody needs a motion to give him.
Make a motion.
Okay. We're Mona Porsche. Okay. I just destroyed that. She is giving him her time, and that's what we're voting on. I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, 5 additional minutes.
Thank you. You can say no based on compatibility alone. Short-term rentals should not be forced on a neighborhood that overwhelmingly does not want it, and clearly is not compatible. Petitioner is asking for a chance to make $6,000 on a home game weekend. I got that from looking up rentals in the area, Woodridge Academy Drive. They say it's $1,500 a night, that's so many nights minimum and fees, but it's $6,000. And depending upon how many home game weekends and how many parents' weekends, and how many graduations you can kick in, they make more on short-term rentals than long-term rentals. There's no benefit to the neighborhood. Nobody has told you there's any benefit to the neighborhood, only to the petitioner. They're creating properties that cannot be occupied by families. They're vacant when they're not short-term rentals. And that's what the neighborhood does not want, is vacancies there when there could be a family move in immediately. There's a waiting list practically. Realtors have a waiting list of people waiting to get in the neighborhood. If there must be a short-term rental, and you must say yes, the number of adults should be compatible, and that's 2. This is a single-family neighborhood and not a multifamily for-profit neighborhood. Why would you ever approve more than what is compatible? But again, the neighborhood does not want any short-term rentals. When one is approved, more to follow, and when does it stop? It makes a difference to these people and me and all my neighbors, how they feel about the neighborhood. When we're invaded by short-term rentals, it makes a difference. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Mr. Whitson? I know it was really sad when a child is hurt or there's a fatality. When did this happen?
Late 90s?
In 1990s?
Late 90s.
Late 90s. Did we not get a petition for short-term rental across the street from that incident?
In
Like
Woodridge.
5 years ago? That was Woodridge? Okay. And that was approved? And has there been any incidences?
At that time, I think you had a little bit of a different policy on how you viewed them. At that time, it was must approve them all.
Do you know if that's still is that still a short-term rental? And
It
has
is.
there been any complaints or anything? Okay, thank you. Can I make a comment regarding this particular issue? Let him,
Any other questions?
No other questions.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we open it up to anyone else in the audience that would like to speak. That person that spoke out, we can't see you because of the poster.
I'm just gonna quickly say, I'm the mean old lady that walks her dog all the time, every day.
Can you state your name and your address, please?
Joanne Strudwick, 317 Riverdale Drive. I'm a mean old lady that has to slow everybody down in the neighborhood, and I mean people that are just cutting through. I know who lives there. I know who are just cutting through my neighborhood. There are children and people walking, just like Jimbo said, and we're constantly having to, other people are saying, slow down. Now, if we have people that don't know that there's that many children in the neighborhood, they're not gonna slow down. I can't tell you how many times I've seen children pulling out in their little scooters and, you know, other people that are just trying to cut through and go fast. So that's the way that we've been able to keep this down to the minimum. And anytime one of these people could come out and not know that there's that many children in the neighborhood, there'd be minus a pet, minus a person. And I mean, I can actually identify a time when someone actually pulled out and hit a dog. So it's just, you know, we don't want that. We don't want, and one person is not worth the value of that property right now. Not one person, not one pet, nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 4 to speak for and 4 to speak against. So
already
we've
got
had
3.
2.
It's 3,
That was 3?
because she gave him her time.
Oh, that's 3, so only one other person can speak on this matter and oppose or, so the lady, I believe in the brown, had her hand up first. Who would you like to go?
Hello, my name's Sarah Tollison. I live at 313 Riverdale Drive, across the street from this property. I actually bought the home from Jimbo Woodson. His parents lived there, and as he said, there's just lots of history of this neighborhood. My main concern and issue with this is the owner of this property, it is not his primary residence. He has no loyalty, concern for the neighbors or the neighborhood. It is not his primary residency. If he lived there and needed to make some money for his family to move out for the weekend, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It's not his primary residence. He has no concern for that home, its neighbors, how everyone feels. I mean, look at that. It's the only reason that they all don't say no is because we didn't have time to go knock on each door. We went door to door, emailed everyone. Everyone said no. Everyone strongly, strongly opposed. I just have emails and emails of, we've lived here our whole lives. We do not want this. We do not want this. And our whole neighborhood says no. If they don't say no, it's because we didn't have time to go to their door, or they are too old to email and couldn't email me back. So we just, young, old, we all strongly, strongly, strongly oppose this, and hope that you will look at that picture and consider the neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to close. Anybody speaking for this petition? So at this time, we'll close public comment. Mr. Smelly, do you have any rebuttal to anything that you heard? Would you like to speak?
I really don't have a rebuttal. Again, I didn't realize this was going to be such an unpopular idea. I will say that I think accidents happen everywhere. On a personal basis, I'm actually more cautious in neighborhoods that aren't mine than neighborhoods that I'm unfamiliar with. And I love the house and I love the neighborhood, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, this time we'll close public comment, and we'll start with board comment. Mr. Rollins?
As I used to say, whenever we have a short-term rental and we have a lot of opposition, it could be much worse. Oftentimes, we mention, well, let's just do a long-term rental. Well, with long-term rentals, there's no limit on the number of cars that you can have. So someone could rent out the house long-term. They can park on the street. You can have 6 cars in the driveway. A lot of those things, in my opinion, are more detrimental to the community than the short term, where we have to limit the number of individuals, limit the number of cars. And if there are issues, like we tell everyone else, please report it to 311. This is always a probationary period for that first year. Once this first year is up, if we have situations where there have been complaints, when it's time for the renewal, we will take that into consideration when it's renewal time. As it stands right now, I have no issues, and I'm in favor of the staff recommendations.
As we all know, short-term rentals, when they began, it has evolved into something it has changed a whole lot, as far as what we're allowed to vote on. Under these circumstances, looking at the neighborhood, and unfortunately, I do know the mother of the child that was hit by the car who did die. So I really do understand how neighborhoods don't want this, because you think people are going to be driving through your neighborhood and they don't know where they're going, they're going to go fast. I drove through the neighborhood today. It's a lovely neighborhood. It looks extremely well manicured. I just am really having a difficult time with denying this petition. I will say, as I said earlier, I'm not in favor of 8 adults and 4 vehicles at all. I do think, like Mr. Rollins said, you can long-term rental it, and who knows, you could get, they must be no more than 2 unrelated, but they can be a lot of wild college students that are a lot more detrimental to your neighborhood than a long-term rental, or than a short-term rental would be. I really am having a difficult time, and I would like to hear what my fellow board members have to say.
Can you go back to the aerial view that shows short-term rentals in the area? So looking at the aerial picture, there are short-term rentals in the area nearby, but looking at your map and all the no's, and if there are 85 homes and 57 people said no, some quick math, that's about 67%. That's overwhelming to me that, you know, not wanting something in our neighborhood. And, you know, I think that's something that we have to consider, you know, the impact, the culture, the fitting with the character of the neighborhood. You know, 8 and 4, that's a lot. I mean, the house we just approved with 8 and 4, it sits on a busy road, it's a large house, it's kind of sits by itself. I wouldn't necessarily want 8 and 4, you know, in my neighborhood. That does sound like, even if they intended to or not, it can turn into a party. You know, I'm not in favor of this. Just, you know, it does not fit with the character of the neighborhood. I feel like the neighbors have shown up here and they have a convinced, you know, I don't believe people, when they are new in an area, they're gonna speed in an area. Most likely they slow down because they don't really know where they're going. So to me, that argument is not necessarily the thing that's convincing, but it's the overwhelming no's of people who just don't want it in their neighborhood. And I think when you come together like that and overwhelmingly say, hey, in a short period of time that we do not want this in our area, it doesn't mean it's gonna stop. It doesn't mean people are gonna keep coming back. So short-term rental is everywhere. So, you know, you may win it this time, but you know, the next time somebody comes, you know, be aware that it can come to your neighborhood, because I believe these other areas fought it, but eventually it's gonna come to your area. So just be aware of that, because $6,000 a weekend, that's a lot of money, okay? So just be aware that the other 30% of your neighbors may be in favor of it, so.
You would have to agree with this many opposition and this many people coming out that I'm struggling to approve this one as well. There's none in this, right here in this Riverdale area, but I would agree that eventually if the next one is a homeowner that's occupied, that want to make some money on the weekends, I mean, this eventually probably will come back around at some point, but at this time, I'm not willing to approve this one.
You know, one of the discretionary tools that we're given as a board is character of the neighborhood. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that the people that live in the neighborhood determine the character of the neighborhood. And I think from the overwhelming no's in the community, that tells me a lot about the character of the neighborhood. So I'm not going to be in favor.
Okay. At this time, we'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-98-24, John Smelly, petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 318 Riverdale Drive, Zone R1, Council District 3, 8 adults, 4 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year, voting with Mr. Rollins.
Yes.
No.
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 Motion failed. Mayor Catherine, you're voting on the rest.
Ms. Coley?
Yeah, that should be fine. Put your name out to the side.
Since they changed our discretionary.
Board, if you could announce that Ms. Holt has taken the spot, Joseph Eatman had to walk away.
If you would, please leave quietly so we can continue. Thank you. All right, Mr. Jonathan.
All right, let's move on to ZBA 9924, Frederick Dion Irby petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property at 2600 4th Street East, Zone R3, Council District 5. Here we have the zoning of the property, as well as the aerial view and the surrounding short-term rentals. Here we have a view of the house, as well as that parking area. So the petitioner is requesting a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a dwelling. Frederick Dion Irby will be the primary contact and be available 24 hours a day. The petitioner does not have experience managing short-term rentals. The house is equipped with cameras and keypad locks, and the property owner will live in the house when it's not being rented short-term. House has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The petitioner requests 8 adults and 4 vehicles. If approved, staff recommends 6 adults and 3 vehicles, with the condition that 1 vehicle must be able to park in the garage. We did receive 1 comment in opposition to this request. We do have the petitioner here in person.
Okay, any questions for the city? Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Irby?
Hey, my name is Reginald Hunter. I'm here today representing Frederick Irby. And I just came up to say good afternoon, see if anybody have any questions about the property.
Will you be the manager of the property for him?
No, sir. Irby is one of my mentors and long friends. Also, I was his realtor for this home.
Okay. And so who's going to be the emergency contact?
It will be Mr. Frederick.
Okay, he lives in the home.
Yes, he will be living there when the home is not rented out.
Okay. Any questions? No questions?
Well, I do have one. When he leaves the home, when it's being rented, is he staying close by? Or?
Yes, he will be downtown in his condo.
Okay, as a condo downtown?
Yes, downtown, like right around the street.
All right. So would he be okay with the 6 adults and 3 vehicles?
Yes, ma'am. I think so.
All right. All right, thank you.
And to answer your question, sir, they will be able to park in the car garage.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So that's one of the stipulations, 1 car in the garage and 2 outside.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. All right, so, is there anyone in the public that'd like to speak for or against? Okay, we'll close public comment and begin board comment with Mr. Gilliam.
I have no issue with this short-term rental with the staff's recommendation of 6 and 3, being that this his personal house, and he's going to be in town when it's being rented.
Okay. I don't have any problem other than the stipulation of 1 car in the garage and 2 on the outside and no street parking, of course.
I agree with my fellow board members.
I have no issues. I'm in favor.
I agree with the staff recommendations.
Okay, we'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-99-24, Frederick Dion Irby petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 2600 4th Street East, Zone R-3, Council District 5, 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation. Voting with Mr. Tim?
Yes.
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 Petition approved.
All right, last case of the night, ZBA 124. Freddie Dexter petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property at 607 18th Street, Zone R4, Council District 2. Here we have the zoning of the property, as well as aerial view of the short-term rentals in the area. And then here we have a view of the house and the parking pad. So the petitioner is requesting a special exception for a short-term rental. Freddie Dexter, Valerie Dexter will be the primary contact in case of an emergency. They'll also be available 24 hours a day. The petitioner does not have experience managing short-term rentals, but does have experience with long-term rentals. The house is equipped with cameras, keypad locks, sensors, and alarms. It is not owner-occupied, and the house will remain vacant when it's not being rented short-term. The house has 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The petitioner requests 4 adults and 2 vehicles. If approved, staff recommends 4 adults and 2 vehicles. We did not receive any public comment for this request. We do have the applicant here in person.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. All right, Mr. You didn't
Madam
realize
Chair, board
you-
members, name is Fred Dexter. I reside at 9 Crestline Drive, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay.
Is there anything that I need to expound on what he just said? Any question I had?
So you had experience with long-term rental.
Yes.
Difference is you just have to have your rules and regulations posted
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
home. They can't
Yes.
park on the street.
Correct.
And it's 30 days and 30 nights, or 30 nights that they can have.
That'll work. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? All right, that's all we have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay.
you.
Anybody here to speak for or against? Okay, we'll close public comment. I'll start board comment, Tim.
I have no issue with this request per the staff's recommendation.
I agree with my fellow board member.
I think it's a reasonable request. I have no issue.
I have no issues, I'm in favor.
Yeah, I have no issues as well.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Appreciate it.
We'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-100-24, Freddie Dexter petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 607 18th Street, Zone R-4, Council District 2, for adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation. Voting with Tim?
Yes.
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 Petition approved. All right. This meeting is